we've built a Salesforce connector that allows us to connect Salesforce generically to any third-party API tool. And Scott's system is a tech mailing system which does NCOA setup. So it will allow us to basically connect your data from Salesforce, send it to TechMail to be able to run through, and as it runs through, it will do CAS updates, which is coding accuracy, which means that that's where it changes it from TERROR to TERR, like that kind of stuff. And then it will also do NCOA, and so it will check against the National Change of Address Registry. And so we'll send you back information that gives you the details about what's changed and we'll give you address corrections, and we'll also give you change of address. So we've got both of those types of things set up there. And so the other things that we give you is we also give you back information about duplicates. So if we have an address that we see that is duplicated, then we'll be able to get that information for you. We also send you back a couple of other things. We send you back FIPS code, and we also send you back congressional district in case those are things that you want. FIPS code is typically used to identify metropolitan statistical areas. So instead of knowing, Grapevine, Texas, you know that that's part of Dallas-Fort Worth, and so you'll know how to be able to code to an entire metro area. Then the other thing that we also give you is we give you the certification documentation for the U.S. Postal Service that allows you to claim best rate postage, because once you have gone through a move change cleansing process, then that does qualify you for best cost postage, and so you can download the documentation that gives you that information as well. All of this is done, once we get the Salesforce administrator to get it set up. It's basically a couple of button clicks that you go through in order to execute it. And you can, basically the way we have this set up is we have it set up so that we have it set up for 1 million records for you to be able to execute during the year for a single price.
It's actually 12 million for nonprofits. So
it's 12 million records through the year. So anyway, I think we got Darren back. So sorry about that.
All right. Yeah.
Hey, Scott, just before we get started, is your role more of a Salesforce? How should we speak to you, I guess? More in a Salesforce role admin area, or kind of more generalized, I guess?
Yeah, I'm more generalized. I'm the Associate Director of Enterprise Applications, whatever that means. But I work with Rochelle and Salesforce and other applications and integrations and marketing emails and such. So,
Gaia, okay. Yeah, I mean, our API, just before we get started, in light of that, I mean, our API is used more in industrial print and mail applications. So we're tied to a lot of EHRs like Epic and Cerner and insurance companies that are sending, like we will produce billions of barcodes a year for mailing. But this API also does the address verification and NCOA part of what has to go on in that process. So this is kind of an artifact of that. But everything we do is kind of rooted in delivery performance. So we're very cognizant of kind of what's going on in our system when it comes to addressing and the quality of return we're providing you, because it's, for most of our clients, there's a direct monetary result of that for what it's worth. So that's kind of what this is primarily used for. This is a kind of a specialized application for what we've built with Salesforce. So I'll shut up now and let Darren kind of go through the actual connection.
Yeah. And so, Rochelle, this is kind of the I was telling you about, these are the return fields, and we kind of talked about this on our first meeting, where we send back stuff here. What you're seeing here, by the way, this is a standard edition Salesforce. This is not a NPSP, so we don't have that address block that you guys have. But if you look at this thing where we, what we'll do is we'll take the standard address information, we'll send that outbound, And then when we do the return response, we actually created this tech mail results block here. And so these are all custom fields that we put in here. And this gives us back the information that tells us, here's what we got back when we got a return response. So you'll see we've got, the address information here on the left, and then we've got kind of some status, and I'll just call it other informational and supplementation type stuff that's here on the right. And so you're going to see there's a status code. So the S code, anything with an S on it means it was a success. And there's different definitions of success, but there's the S code there that tells you that there was a success. Then you can see there's the FIPS code, and that tells you the metropolitan statistical area, the congressional district, the county. And we also have a check mark there that says that there was a change detected, if there was something there. And then there's a duplication status right there. And so the U means it's unduplicated, but if it was duplicated, we'd give you an indicator, and then we'd tell you the duplication group. So if you had 3 addresses that were duped, we would say, okay, it's dupe and it's in group 3. And there would be anything that's listed in there that's in group 3. So if I've got 20 addresses, I would say there are 20 addresses that belong to group 3, and they're all the same. All right. And so that's something that you can use to be able to do some reporting and some investigation. So that lets you give you some of those identifiers. So again, that I want to show you that just so you see this is what's happening as you're sending the data out and you're getting the data back. And so we can either put that information, like I said, this is a standard enterprise edition. If you guys have the NPSP, you put all that stuff on your address block record that you have in NPSP. So, and you can see here the text status. Sorry, Aaron.
Sorry.
Yeah, on the text status, you can see some of the stuff here. You get the S8000s that's showing you that everything was good, and then you get a few E codes that are telling you different errors, where the address is out of range or it's not a valid address or something like that. Like we'll give you different codes back that say that okay, you indicated this was in the 3000 block of Main Street, but Main Street only goes to 2000, so something's wrong there, right? Or some you get stuff like that. That comes back and it gives you the different error codes, and so you can figure out what's going on there, so you can see what's happening.
And there's a chart of all the codes and
yeah.
I think did I send those out to you, Rachel?
I don't believe so. I know I got an email about the trust status.
Okay, yeah, I knew I sent you something. That's what Brian was going on to. Whenever you see one of the, like E421 means something very specific, as to why that address is airing out. And that if you'd like that, I can send that to you as a follow up to this meeting. It just basically identifies every possible, well, I shouldn't say every possible iteration, because someone will think of something that's not in there. But it gives you pretty granular detail on kind of why that address isn't coding properly. And there's a variety of them. One could be it's missing a directional, for instance, give me the north-south indicator, that type of thing. But we do give you some kind of status on why that's not doing what you wanted to.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what's happening. So that's what you're seeing on the actual record itself. What Darren's showing you now is actually, Darren, let's go into the admin if you wouldn't mind, just so we can kind of show them this. What will happen is we'll give you a managed package here that you'll download into your Salesforce instance, and you'll get the IOLite Nexus connector package here. And so that's what you're seeing here. These are things that would download with Nexus. And then we would have you download the verify and confirm connector. So that gives you the data definitions for all the things that we need in order to connect to the endpoint. And so what you'll see in there is and this is, you can see in our connector hub, this is all the different connectors we have. So, TechMail is one of them. We have a bunch of other stuff that we have connectors with. But you'll download from the connector hub, you'll get the verify and confirm connector. And then when you go into that, you'll see these are the different endpoints of that API. So this is what, when you download the definitions, will give you all of this stuff. So you don't have to do anything. We already tell you this is all the stuff you need to do in order to connect to the tech mail service, right? And so when we set this up, we're going to say, okay, here's our outbound message. And so our outbound message is we're gonna have these, 8 fields that are in here that we're gonna be sending outbound. And when you do this, we would have you go through and map where you want to get these from. So you can select the object, and then when you go into it, you'll say, okay, we're coming in off the contact object, and then we discover all the fields that are in there. So you can see here's all the stuff that's there. So you're basically going through and doing, I'll call it a point and click operation, right? It's a point and pick list operation, I guess, if you really want to be specific about it. But what we're doing is we're going through and just basically saying, okay, where do you want to get this data from? So we send it outbound. Right. And you'll just basically fill in these 8 fields. So it takes, 5 minutes to get this done. Right. And you'll go through here and set that up. And then what we'll do is on the other side of it, now we're going to say, okay, what happens when we get the order? So this is what happens when it's coming back to us. So this is the inbound event. Right. And we're going to so we can say, we're going to put this back on the contact object. That's where we have it mapped to. Right. And then here's all that stuff that you saw when we were on there. So we've got all these other pieces of information that are going to come back. And again, do the mapping here, same kind of thing. Right. So here we've got more fields. I don't know what we got, about a dozen fields that we need to be able to do, but it's the same thing. We're going to show you the list of everything you've got on the contact record, and you pick where you want to stick it. It may be that you'd have to create a couple of fields. So for instance, like our dupe group status, you have to create a couple of fields so we can land the data. But that should all kind of make sense. So it's pretty straightforward. You just basically have to define the stuff that you need, and you've got an inbound message and an outbound message, and that's pretty much what's going on here. So once you've got that built, then all we have to do is go in and execute it. And so in order to execute it, you only have to build it once. So all that mapping stuff, you only had to do that one time. Then anytime you want to run it, this is what I was telling you, you go through and you got to do about 3 button clicks in order to go through here and do this, right? So you have to say, I'm going to do a submit order. I'm going to go in and I'm going to tune our addresses for NCOA processing. You're going to get this thing called a path, and this is something that's required by the Postal Service in order to be able to provide your authorization. When you sign up for the service with Scott, we'll generate the path for you, so it'll show up here. You just have to say, here it is, check it, right? And then you have some choices here, which you're probably just going to accept the defaults, but you can choose whether you want to have camel case or if you want to do all upper or all lower for any of the return data that you get, and whether you want to use the deduplication, whether you care about that and put the deduplication. Most people leave it as upper, lower, and true, so you really don't have to do that. And then the last thing on here, and I mentioned this before, we have the query builder in here. This is where you can do a SOQL query, and you can limit your data output with what addresses you want to be able to set up. So if you want to say mailing state equals California, and just limit your stuff there, Colorado, whatever. And so you can put that stuff in there. And so that select clause, we've already put the select data in there because we know where your data is coming from. We already knew that because you made your mappings, right? So we've made it about as easy as you can make it as far as what needs to happen. So once you do that, then you can say, okay, just run. And so down at the bottom, and Darren's got all the stuff in the way.
There's a button down saying.
Yeah. There's a button in the way of all the stuff that's on, this is a fun.
I promise you, hang on.
Yeah. But anyway, at the bottom there, it basically says validate query and execute. So, so that's what you would do if you were going to do this. And we kind of recommend, minimum probably quarterly, you execute this. You could do it monthly. if you wanted to. But basically, there you go. So you validate the query and then execute, right? And so at that point, you'll fire it off. When you execute, it, depending on your data volume, I mean, it grinds for a while. It'll take you 30 minutes, an hour, or something like that, depending on your data volume, because it's cranking through your entire database, right? But then what happens is all the data comes back and it's loaded into your application, and you get everything back there. What Darren's showing you here is kind of the debugging capability that we have. So what happens is this is the request message outbound. So when we send that message out and we start sending all of your data, this is our logging tool, and all the logging happens here in Salesforce. So that's actually by design, because we want you to be able to, if there's problems or issues or whatever, we want you to be able to see it in Salesforce. We don't want to have you go to a third-party tool or anything like that. So you can see, error messages, you can see stuff that's happened, and you can drill into it and pull back the information. I also mentioned that, when we get the information back, you get all the success messages. You also get the postal processing forms that allow you to claim best cost postage. All that stuff comes back in the request message details and stuff like that. So you'll be able to get this stuff, and you can download the files that are, if you're going to use that best cost postal form, it comes in the return response message, and you can just download it from this message.
But while these do show up here, you have, is it 2 weeks that it stays on the server is available to download?
It's actually for the amount of time that qualification reports are valid. So it'll be 3 months.
Okay.
So I can't download these because
they at some point they spoil, and we don't want to keep the stuff. We're just keeping it there for you guys to access. So yeah, it'll stay in there for 3 months.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't need something from that far back. So yeah, it's
no.
That's pretty much it. I think Rochelle, we'd take whoever's your Salesforce admin, and we kind of work them through the mapping. And as you saw, the mapping is, 15, 20 fields is pretty much all you got to do. There's a little bit, you got to put in your credentials and passwords, stuff like that. We've had people set this thing up in 30 minutes. And then, after that, then, you as the administrator or whoever you want to authorize, right? You would go into that list builder tab, click through the 5 or 6 buttons you got to click through there, and go and run that once a month or once a quarter, whatever you want. That's pretty much all you would have to do. If there's no data load, the data is coming in and out of your Salesforce instance directly. So there's no messing with Excel files and all that stuff.
Gotcha. One question, I feel like I know the answer, but I guess on the demo, I'm curious to see what it will look like. Like if we send data and if there is an update, I saw an upsert checkbox. Is there a way to not upsert it, but just add? So like if there's any type of difference, then it'll just create a whole new address rather than overriding the current data.
Yes.
A lot of people choose to do that. Are you, do you guys have an MDM attached to your Salesforce instance out of curiosity?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. When you set up this data, sorry, go ahead, Darren.
And in the not-for-profit pack, when you have that address, you will always just, anything that comes back, you will want to do an insert on an address record, and it will just create the new one, and then that way you can go, yes, that's the one we want to be the main. But yeah, and so here you can instead of doing an upsert, you would do an insert. So simple as that.
Perfect. Question, in terms of foreign addresses, how do people normally deal with that? Or this is just
you know what, it'll come out as an error. It'll error out in our system, so it'll show an error code in there, and we don't touch them in our One of the
This-
unfortunate things about our service, I suppose, if you can call it that, is we're strictly U.S. based, and a lot of that's due to the Postal Service kind of integration we do. So I do have access to some of those data sets, so it's something we're looking at for future kind of development. So I'm all ears, and if that's something you guys want functionality on, I'm collecting information on it. So. Do you guys have a fair amount of foreign addresses in there in your
We
instance?
have a handful.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's got their flavor, you look at zip codes and how other countries do it. It's there's no agreed upon method, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's pretty much it though. I mean, it's actually a pretty straightforward product. It's a pretty straightforward setup, pretty straightforward execution. And hopefully we would save you guys some time of, manually going in to correct addresses.
Yeah, I also realized you guys have county information in there, which is great because we don't really collect county. Like we have zip codes and we try to run some geographical reports based on zip codes, but that can get complicated as well. So it'll be nice to have that county identifier piece incorporated. Question for you. In some cases, especially with some of our email subscribers, sometimes they only give us a zip code. Is there, because it's not a full address, would there be any additional details based on the zip code alone, or would it need to be a verified address before we can exchange any info there?
That is a great question, and kind of how our system works is kind of bi-directionally. If I need a valid address, like 123 Main Street. After that, if you give me a zip, I will give you the +4 in the city and state. If you give me the city and state, I will give you the zip +4. So I need one of those two data elements to return the rest of it. But if I have a valid address, it does pretty good at kind of giving you the rest of it. So that is when you're mailing stuff, that is very, very common. Something like that is missing. So great question. But yeah, that's how it works. I do need a street address though.
Yeah, a lot of times we just ask for a zip code, like first name, last name, and then in the zip code, and so yeah.
Yeah. Can you give me a street address? If I can get that, we'd be fine. But yeah, but based off what you're telling me, Scott, that's a problem.
Have to mail something to a zip code. So.
Any other questions we can answer for you? I mean, there's not a whole, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to show here. It's mostly, admin based. So we're trying to keep it as hands-free as possible. So it means not a lot to show, really.
Yeah. I think our goal is just faster updating of addresses and less manual labor of exporting and importing, and more automation. So
you must have a sense of how long this takes to do VLOOKUPs or to load data into Salesforce then, huh, Scott?
Only what Rachel has told me.
Too long.
Yeah, hopefully she's candy coding it, because if you when I hear people explain it, I'm like, why are you using this tool? It sounds like torture, but it's a powerful tool. You have to kind of, someone's got to bend to it. It's not easy, that's for sure. It's not as easy as it should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, she would be very happy with this.
Yes. Yeah. Briefly, whenever the steps she takes to get the addresses updated. So and it takes a while to get it out and back. So
right.
Oh yeah.
If you're trying to mail out something, then you got to wait for weeks for an address to be updated, and for flyers and marketing stuff. So yeah.
The benefit too is you're not going to get missent data in the first place, right? You know, that's the idea. Is this is a preventative rather than a reactive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and mail that comes back to you because it's
It's
no longer good. So
you wouldn't, you know, when I get drug into, you know, sometimes we'll go to banks and insurance companies and stuff, and they always have a room, and this room is I mean, it's completely packed with return mail, and they're like, "What do we do about this?" And it's like, stop sending those things out to that addresses. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but then it's kind of like how, and you know, how you do that is exactly kind of what you're showing us, or what we're showing you here is move your address data quality upstream, know exactly what you're sending to printer or print service provider, and you should be able to eliminate most of it. But a lot of the problem here is kind of where you put it, and putting it downstream when you're mailing stuff, and a lot of these print service providers, I mean, most of them are good businesses trying to look out for your back, but a lot of them are kind of like, they take the attitude of, we're given this list and told to mail everything. And it's like, but you know, a lot of the stuff's not going right. And they're like, yeah, but we're told to mail everything. And it's because they get more revenue off of it. You know, I mean, it's kind of like do you plan on keeping your client very long? I mean, if I caught you doing this, you'd be done. But that's how a lot of them think, you know?
Yeah, and I know we do get a ton of returned mail every time we do one of these mass mailings as well. So
You should be able to, I mean, the solution, again, it depends on how big your data sets are, right? I mean, but you know, if you at a certain size, this just becomes a no-brainer because it'll pay for itself very quickly. But you know, and if are you guys looking at Agentforce or doing any of the agentic AI stuff that Salesforce is? Yeah, I would say it becomes even more vital at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, you've kind of indicated, I mean, it's in terms of reliability of your data, you're probably questioning it right now because in a perfect world, you wouldn't get return mail, right? I mean, it's, you know, like that's kind of the analog that tells you something's not as good as it should be. Yeah.
Well, Rochelle or Scott, do you guys have any other questions? I mean, you know, like I said, it's fairly straightforward, but we want to make sure it's also fitting with where you guys think you could use it as a use case. So, you know, do you have any thoughts here for us?
I think that covers all the questions I have.
yeah, Rachel works with us. I don't. Is there a trial period for this, or is it just?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, we've been letting specifically nonprofits download it and try it, you know, without commitment. So, I mean, at some point, it's kind of I mean, the data always moves, right? 12% of those people moving every year. So it'll give you a good indication on kind of the status of your database today and what it'll look like tomorrow without an action. So it's, you know, we're happy to let you kick the tires on it and use it. And, you know, if you don't feel like it's a good fit, by all means, you know, don't move forward.
We've got pretty good documentation on all that. So
Awesome.
and we've got documentation specific to the not-for-profit pack. I just don't have one to show. So
Perfect. And then I think during the last chat, I remember you did quote a range. So I think while we're preparing for the trial, it'd be nice to just like have a number in mind too. So
yeah, that's, I mean, we've tried to make that pretty simple. And one of the things I've been doing, you know, since I've well, it's $5,000 for 12 million records, basically. And I don't know what your record set's like, but I'm trying to encourage that. That was my best attempt at getting my organization to do kind of like an unlimited, but some of the counterparts I work with weren't too thrilled on unlimited because that can be kind of abusive. But I you know, like 12 million is also very, very generous. I mean, what Melissa's charging right now, which is kind of the other option, is I think they're it's $8 per thousand is their fee. So add up your data. I mean, I find a lot of people just not using it because of that. or they're using it because they're so small. That makes sense. So there's kind of like there's a breaking point, but even that one requires a lot of prerequisite stuff to get installed. It's not cheap, and they do a seat thing. So I don't know. I don't like either option really in terms of pricing, because I would love to get this, $1,000 solution. It just doesn't work with the data loading and all the other components we have. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough, but we'll let you try it for free.